Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the event in conversation, Stephen Friedman Gallery at the London House of Modernity, moderated by Emma Crichton-Miller. I'm delighted to introduce our participants in today's discussion, Stephen Friedman and Andrew Duncanson. Both men are distinguished leaders in their respective fields of art and design. Born in Canada, Stephen Friedman moved to London aged 22 to study at Sotheby's and fell in love with the city. In 1995, he opened a gallery in Old Burlington Street, Mayfair. In the following 25 years, the gallery has acquired 2 additional spaces in which it hosts solo and group exhibitions throughout the year. Andrew Duncanson began his career in design retail in Scotland, from where he moved to Stockholm and opened Modernity Gallery in 1998. The gallery is located in the heart of central Stockholm's design district, Östermalm, and is a regular exhibitor at various international art and design shows in London, New York, Paris, and at home in Stockholm. The following conversation explores their art and design collaboration currently presented at 14 Cavendish Square. Our moderator is Emma Crichton-Miller, a writer, a journalist, and editor of the Design Edit. She writes regularly about art and design for the Financial Times, Apollo magazine, and for various other publications. There will be an opportunity to ask questions after the discussion, so please write your questions in the chat panel, where there is also a booking link for the exhibition. Having introduced our participants, I would now like to ask Emma to begin. Emma.
Thank you, Alana. Thank you for that introduction. Hello, Stephen and Andrew. Sorry not to be with you in person, but very good to be with you on Zoom.
Nice to see you, Emma.
Nice. Well, I thought, as a first question, how did this collaboration come about, this specific collaboration between the two of you in Cavendish Square?
Well,
go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, we actually approached Stephen and asked him if he would be interested in displaying some of his beautiful artworks in our space in Cavendish Square. And that was because we wanted to activate the building, not just using our design pieces, but having special limited time exhibitions there. And this is the second of that type that we've done. And Stephen was a natural choice for us because we know Stephen from the fairs. We used to exhibit at Basel and Miami. And Stephen also has an interest in design. So we've known each other for quite a few years. So that's how it came about. And luckily, I'll hand you over to Stephen, but he said yes.
So why did you say yes, Stephen?
Well, I mean, I love what Modernity does. I think they are one of the leading galleries in the world for Scandinavian mid-century design. And I couldn't think of a better synergy of his gallery and my gallery. I must say, I said yes before I really had a chance to look at the building. And I love the opportunity of collaborating with Andrew and his team. And it was and I had already committed to doing it without seeing the building. But when I did see the building, I was just so enthralled. And it became, my mind, it started as a kind of a small collaboration. I really had no idea of the scale of the building and what was possible. And when I saw the space, it just grew into something much bigger than I had anticipated. And of course, with it, even more exciting than I could have imagined. And yeah, here we are today.
And what I think your own collecting interests overlap with Modernity, what Modernity shows. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes, I mean, I've been collecting furniture, mid-century furniture for probably going on 25 years. Some Brazilian mid-century furniture and a lot of early Scandinavian design. And I've, in my office, in any opportunity I have to create a kind of domestic environment, which we'll obviously talk about over this conversation, it's just the perfect combination of great art and great design. I like functional. I like furniture that you can use, and it's got to be very beautiful to look at, but it's got also has to be very comfortable, and not too precious, and that's exactly the sort of wonderful design that Andrew and his team specialize in, really, at Modernity. So again, I felt an instant synergy and comfort, degree of comfort in this collaboration from the beginning.
Great. And Andrew, I was just wondering if there was something particularly about the program at Stephen Friedman that you felt would make a good match, besides a shared sense of affinity with Stephen and the gallery itself, but maybe something about the program.
Well, we privately collect art, and mostly, I would say almost exclusively Nordic art, but contemporary art. It's a little bit historic, but mostly contemporary. And Stephen actually represents two of my favorite Swedish artists who are in fact represented in Cavendish. So that was also a natural, for me, it was a natural choice. It was an extra bonus, if you like.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, certainly when you see those great Mama Anderson and Andreas Eriksson works, they just fit in so magnificently. So I can see that you would appreciate that. I wondered from both of you, but we'll take it in turns, what you feel are the benefits of displaying artworks alongside design pieces. You talked at the beginning, Andrew, about activating the space, not just with design, but also with art. And Stephen, you hinted there to the idea that you like to mix and match art with perhaps some design in fair stands, for instance, or even in galleries. And I just wondered why you felt that worked so well.
Well, I think, Andrew, the word activate is the perfect word. We are so used to looking at art, in some cases, in very sterile environments, in white cubes. And sometimes it's very difficult to imagine what the art could look like in your house, or in a living room, or in a dining room, or what I've always felt helps that experience is imagining what it could look like in your house. And so by creating kind of a domestic environment, or a series of domestic environments, they may not be everyone's taste. I mean, not everyone wants to collect mid-century Scandinavian furniture, but it gives you a sense of what it could look like in a domestic environment, whether it's your particular taste or not. It grounds the art, and it enhances it in a very respectful and beautiful way. And when you have objects and paintings of equal quality, there's a wonderful energy that they create together. And we've almost every art fair we participate in, we always have a furniture. And so not just a table and chairs, we'll have a rug for underneath the table and chairs, and we create an office that has a kind of sofa and a coffee table and pair of chairs. So not just to make it comfortable for our clients to kind of come and visit, but again, it creates a perfect environment and a perfect backdrop for the art.
And how about you, Andrew, the other way around?
Well, this is something that we've thought about since we first started exhibiting at international fairs, that even our colleagues who have design galleries, they often display one piece a masterpiece, if you like. And it's a bit like a gallery setting. But my own feeling, maybe coming from a design retail background and working with interior design, my own feeling was that most people don't really have the same fantasy as we do working with the pieces every day. So it's always been my ambition to put things into a context, to give them a setting. And that has worked very well for us, because it tends to be that whenever we do an exhibition or a fair, we do room settings. And often one client will buy one entire group of pieces because they see them together, they can imagine them, and they say, that's perfect, that's the way we want it at home. And having collected art, that is the way we live. That's the way most people live. If they have any kind of art, it's combined with your interior, with your pieces that you're living with every day. And I think that at Cavendish, especially given the space that we have there, it's the perfect environment for showing art and design together.
Well, yes, and I suppose that does bring me on to the next question, which is the whole idea of introducing both art and design to that very striking architectural context, which isn't, as you describe it, Stephen, a sterile white cube, but is indeed an eloquent, powerful space in its own right. And what the benefits are really, I mean, it's a kind of notionally domestic space. It was once a domestic space. Now it is sort of in an interim stage, but it does create a wonderful platform for these works. And I just wondered what you both saw in that, what the opportunity was, and what it enabled you to sort of, the discussions it enabled you to activate within the objects and the artworks.
Andrew, go ahead.
Well, I think that it's quite obvious for me, because it's the same feeling as when I saw the building in the very first place, and then it was completely empty. It was very dirty, and I came out and my head was spinning, and I thought, what can we do? Should we really do this? Because it is in pretty poor condition inside. But I went away and I thought, you can find renovated buildings all over London, but to find something like this is just so incredible. So we said yes, of course, right away. And I think that for me, the interesting part of it is that the building itself is from 1770. So the facade and the front rooms are neoclassical. They're Palladian, they're Georgian, if you like. And they are still intact, and the staircase is intact. But the back of the building was bombed in the Second World War, and then it was rebuilt in the 50s using concrete. So it's quite brutal. So you come from these wonderful drawing rooms, if you like, into this really high ceilinged open space that's quite brutal because it doesn't have any features. And I think that wow factor that you get from walking from one space into another is I think that's mostly what our visitors will be, they'll be feeling that as well as soon as they go through the doors into the other space. I don't know what you felt, Stephen.
I mean, for me, I agree with what you said, but there's so many layers of things. There's texture, there's light, there's color. It's very subtle. The nuance is really remarkable. I mean, the atmosphere is, I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, to be honest, I'd seen the space after we committed to the collaboration, and then we went through various phases of lockdown. When we were very fortunate, we installed the exhibition in December, just when we had come out of lockdown temporarily and just about to go into another lockdown. So I didn't see the finished product until about 2 months ago. Or 6 weeks ago, when I had to come into London. I'm currently living in the country. When I came into London to have my vaccination, as a matter of fact, and it was a priority to go see the show. And I I was just so blown away by returning to that space again and seeing the original structure of the building. And you know, it doesn't matter that it's not renovated. In fact, that's part of its great attraction. And it's a really unique experience. It's very hard to translate it as good a job as we did with film and creating a journal. And it's to experience it in reality is something unbelievably special.
Mm.
Well, and it's interesting what you say there about the building. And I suppose what I'm then interested in is how, for instance, the layers and textures, and as you say, the subtlety of the light and so on, of the building then attunes your eye to the artworks. And whether that had indeed influenced your curatorial choices in terms of which works you would choose to display there.
You know, I'm sure Andrew would agree with me, and I'm sure we share many obsessions, but one thing I'm sure both very particular about is how we show art and how we show design in his case. And so everything from lighting to creating atmosphere is very key to what we do. And when this space, you have to give up a lot of that, because you can't control, there's no professional lighting system. You have to work on, and the light changes at all times of the day. So you have to kind of let the building dictate the atmosphere and how the art and the furniture and the rugs and everything else, how it kind of portrays itself. So it's very hard. I'm sure Andrew would agree. I'm sure he's every bit the control freak that I am when it comes to these things, and wanting to create control an environment, and you can't do it here. And it's a very freeing experience. And actually the result is really satisfactory.
I have to say, I'll just jump in there and say that I have to admit that I haven't even seen the exhibition live because I haven't been able to travel. I'm really hoping that I can do that within a couple of weeks, but we'll see. But it's interesting that you say that, because I am a bit of a control freak, and that could maybe be seen by some of our booths at different fairs, that I have to have hands on. But this time I've really, because of the isolation here, and because a lot of our pieces were already in London, we had to make them work with the space and with your art, and I wasn't 100% involved in that, I have to admit, but the results seem to be exceptional. So I'm very happy.
You know, I'd like to say it's because we chose very particular works, and to a certain extent it is, you know, we have great artists and they are really wonderful works, but everything looks good in that space.
Well, Stephen, I wondered whether you could just elaborate on that a bit, because you aren't showing all of your artists, but you have chosen a fair number, and far beyond the initial theme or idea of Scandinavian. So you have 2 Scandinavian artists there, but then you have others as well. And I just wondered what affinities you felt between those artists and the spaces at Cavendish Square, and indeed the furniture that Modernity is showing there.
Well, we have a lot of artists who make multimedia work. Some of it is painting, some of it is drawing, some of it are there are weavings, there's sculptural work, there's drawing, there's color, there's monochromatic work. And I mean, it started really with Andreas Eriksson and Mama Anderson. That was how the whole conversation began. So we initially gave priority to those 2 artists, but then it opened up into a whole other conversation with many of our other artists. And there are so many highlights throughout the spaces. But for example, there is, I think there are at least 2 or 3 dining room environments. There's a small dining room, I don't remember what floor it's on, that has a beautiful group of Ilona Keseru.
Yes.
Works on paper,
Beautiful.
Pink, these kind of beautiful woven, they're kind of waves, work from the 70s. And it worked so beautifully with the dining table and chairs. I'm sorry, Andrew can probably tell you who they're by, but I can tell you they're very beautiful dining room table and chairs.
It's downstairs, it's on the first floor.
Right.
The ground floor.
Yeah, and what I loved about that combination was just that sense of structure that they both had. There was something just very beautiful about structure, repetition, as well as, I mean, the sheer aesthetic quality of both. But they seem to work together beautifully.
I mean, I took an interior designer friend of mine to see the exhibition, and he just thought it was the best of everything. And he said, so there was no designer per se who put together this whole show. I said, no, it was the art and the design, and it combined very naturally and very effortlessly. Yeah, I can pick out lots of highlights, but
yes. Well, I was just wondering if there were, because I love lots of them as well, and I do find it very powerful. So I find it very powerful looking at the Andreas Ericsson through that beautiful black sofa. Andrew, you need to come to my rescue here and remind me.
Well, that's actually, I could probably move into the first floor.
Yes,
because those especially those 2 of the larger rooms are definitely my favorites. But yeah, the chairs and the sofa that you're talking about in front of the Ericsson painting is they're by Ole Vanscher, the Danish artist, and he designed them in 1949. What's special about those? It's the wood that they're made in. They were made in different woods. The most exclusive was being Brazilian rosewood, and all of those pieces with the black leather are in Brazilian rosewood.
No, well, they have a very powerful feeling, those pieces, but so does the painting. And it's just the conversation about light and dark and the woods, and it just works beautifully. And then, of course, to your left, you have the wonderful Mama Anderson painting.
Yeah, and the lighter furniture.
Exactly.
The finial and the 2 finished chairs as well.
And but also, Stephen, I think introducing Yinka's work works beautifully as well.
So I was going to say, you know, we took a look at, I mean, there was a practical reason to do the show too. We wanted to activate some earlier inventory of work that we had kept back for a long time. And when it kind of gave it an instant new lease on life. I mean, the Yinka Shonibari works, for example, there's a work in the dining room, or 2 sculptures in the dining room, I believe, that are from a film that he did in probably 15 years ago that we've kind of held back for special exhibition purposes. And they just look, in the past, they've only been shown in a museum environment. And this was a perfect opportunity to present them here. All of a sudden, they look much smaller. They look much more accessible. They look much more collectible, really. And again, that is part of the exercise of this collaboration. We wanted to create something very beautiful, but obviously we wanted to create an environment in which people could come and buy art and buy design. So this is the wonderful dining room that Andrew and I agree is kind of our favorite room. And Andrew could talk about the furniture, but I could tell you the mirror you're looking at is a work by Jim Hodges from about, I don't have the details in front of me, but probably 10 to 15 years ago. And it's 2 panels that have been cracked very instinctively by the artist. That's part of the work. And it has, I mean, it couldn't be a more perfect focal piece for this room and for the adding texture and layers to the room. And if you notice above, if you look above on the ceiling, you notice there's a big hole in the ceiling, but that kind of adds to the glamour. And what you're not seeing in this photograph is the most spectacular chandelier that hangs above the table.
You can see it reflected in the mirror.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You can see reflected in the mirror. Yes. It's
well, I think we do have one or two other images. Perhaps we could see.
Shonibari.
Yes.
The other side.
And also of the.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, this is to jump back to the other room with this beautiful.
The Andreas Eriksson and the.
Yeah.
There.
Back. Oops.
What happened now?
Sorry, Celia. Would it be possible to see the dining room image again, the second one? Oh, well.
Well. Something's coming.
Oh, wait, it's coming now. So the second one long.
No.
No, third. Sorry.
This
one.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, this for me is such a beautiful image when you've got the Shonibaris standing there, either waiting to be seated or even waiting to attend the table. But I think that it's such a beautiful image. It's so poetic, and the furniture. If we want to speak quickly about the furniture, it's almost in this space. It's almost all finished. The dining table and chairs were actually anonymous when I bought them. I just thought they were so stunning. You can't see the details here, but they've got beautiful details and proportion. But it turned out that they were by one of Finland's most famous architects, Uno Ullberg. We found out later after I'd bought them. And the chandelier was made, one of only two made for a specific project in Helsinki. It's by Almari, the Finnish designer in the 1940s.
And Stephen, could you tell us a bit about the Jed Quinn at the end? I think I'm interested by the sort of the wit as well that these juxtapositions introduces to the experience.
So Jed Quinn is a British painter living in Cornwall, and the starting point for a lot of his work is a kind of reinterpretation of old master paintings. And this, from my recollection, is the background of the painting is probably based on a kind of Claude Lorraine painting. And it just fits like a glove in this environment. They were made, I would imagine I think the painting is a more recent work than the Shonabaris. I could never have imagined any environment in which a Jed Quinn painting of this period and Shonabari sculptures of this period could hang together in a room. There's another little Jed Quinn painting on the side, which is a still life painting. And here they look like they were made for this room.
Well, exactly, with the references to history and art history and in architectural context, which is so pertinent, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to create a dialogue that one would never have thought of in the first place. And again, I'm sure I speak for Andrew as well. We love creative. We love to be creative. We are really curators ourselves on so many levels. But when you learn something, when something is unexpected, like this, it's a real pleasure and a real joy.
And I suppose I then had a thought, which is that, I mean, in a sense, your collaboration arose out of a crisis, which is the pandemic, and the possibilities for other ways of display being blocked to you with cancellation of fairs and the difficulties of people traveling and so on. And yet, I wondered if you felt that this collaboration had shown you possibilities for the future that might persist beyond the end of the crisis, that it's been positive in that way.
Andrew, you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. Yeah, absolutely. This is actually something that is very close to my own heart, because I think 15 years ago, we did an experimental fair in Stockholm where we mixed in each booth, we mixed art, whether it be contemporary or historical art, with contemporary design, historical design, and even antiques. And it sounds like a crazy mishmash, but it was so exciting. The booths came to life. They were, not all of them were so accomplished, but the ones that were good were exceptional. For me, it was one of the more interesting fairs that I've ever done. But it was a little bit ahead of its time. We didn't sell a thing. So commercially, it was a disaster. But I've always wanted to reinterpret that feeling that I got when we finished our booth at that fair. And this is taking it to another level. And I think that now the time is right for it as well. So
I think also what the pandemic has done, if there is a positive side to it, is as it's opened up communication among colleagues in a way that has never happened before. I mean, I've always been a great collaborator. I love working with other gallerists, but we are all by nature quite. We can be very kind of closed-minded, and this kind of new desire and openness to exchange information and to collaborate in ways that we've never been able to do before, it just felt, again, in the right spirit of the time. And I'd like to think that this kind of will set a precedent for many other collaborations of other kinds for many other dealers. I mean, the possibilities are really endless.
Well, that's great. And I also wondered whether there was something about the way that as we've all been sitting at home, we've become very familiar with our domestic environments in the way that before we might slightly have taken them for granted. I mean, that's not true for everybody, but many people spend an awful lot of time traveling or in hotels or in offices, or and spending that much time alone in your own domestic space with your family, considering the objects and artworks and what they give you. Do you think that has given people a greater sensitivity to the opportunities of their home environment and how they might adorn it or activate it?
It definitely seems like that, because we have been so incredibly busy. Not the gallery in Stockholm, but on internet, with both private clients and even interior designers contacting us. So the interior designers that we've had have had so many projects within the last 5-6 months. And it must be because of that it's either a divorce or you renovate your property.
That's true. And from my experiences, it's been very difficult to actually getting people in front of art in the flesh. We've had to rely on OVRs, online viewing rooms, and the new technology that we've had access to. And that's kept us in touch with our clients. It's kept the business going. But now there is a bit of a fatigue of looking at art virtually. And we finally reopened in London last week after a 6-month lockdown, reopened the gallery. And I have to say, it was like Christmas last week. The energy in London was so frenetic and palpable and really exciting. And just having people back in the gallery again was really amazing. But in answer to your question, yes, I think when people have a lot of time on their hands, they are looking online at various things. I mean, we just moved into a new house in the country that we've been working on for a long time, and I've had time to kind of find pieces of furniture that I've been missing and that we didn't have when we designed the house originally. So people, yes, naturally, people are shopping much more online, and even at this price level. I mean, certainly the more savvy and established collectors who feel comfortable enough and confident enough to buy online.
Okay, golly, well, that is interesting. I just want to pause a moment and say that if anyone has any questions, do post them on the chat line, and Alana will alert me. But meanwhile, I thought that we could think a little bit more about how, because I certainly think that after looking at things online for so long, that the sheer theatre of walking into a space of those dimensions is just thrilling. To have your own body in the same space as those pieces of furniture and those artworks is just such a thrill.
I mean, my own personal experience when I walked in 6 weeks ago, and I'm so sorry Andrew hasn't had a chance to experience that yet. I mean, even someone like me or like Andrew, who we're very fortunate. We live in very beautiful environments. We work in very rarefied and privileged and beautiful spaces. We're in and out of very beautiful houses all the time. But actually, to really to walk into this space it's very hard to convey the remarkable atmosphere, and I thought I'd seen it all until I walked into this house and saw it totally afresh, and as Andrew said, activated in such a just exceptional way. So yes, this is going from being at home all the time and we've been on the phone to people, just trying to get them. Obviously, we want them to come to the gallery too, but just trying to get them over to Cavendish Square, because we're just saying to them, look, just trust us. It's worth. Yeah. I'm not going to send you a list of works that you're going to see. You just have to walk in and experience it yourself.
Yeah. No, and it must be quite tricky, I would think, that so something like, for instance, those wonderful tapestry works of Andreas Eriksson, which are so subtle and just so beautiful, but quite hard to communicate their subtlety through the digital medium. Whereas when you see them there in that space, animated by the light that's falling in the room, but also when you're already attuned to textures and the different materials all around you, they just come to life in a very powerful way.
Yeah, yes, I'll tell you, there's an Andreas Eriksson painting in the exhibition, quite a sizable one, that has always been one of my favorite paintings of his. It's a much darker palette. It's not as colorful as some of his other ones. And I guess as a result, we still have it as available because we haven't sold it, and we sell a lot of his work. And I have to say, seeing it installed here with the light, the raking light that comes across it, I'm thinking, I don't want to sell that painting anymore. I want to keep that painting because it's every bit as beautiful as I thought it was when I first saw it, but it looks magical in the space.
Well, thank you both very much. It's been so interesting talking to you both. I think it has been certainly my experience of it was that it is a hugely impactful exhibition, and that both the art and the design looks magnificent. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you again, everybody, for joining us. I know you're all extremely busy. The exhibition at Cavendish Square, 14 Cavendish Square, continues until the 28th of May. If anyone would like to visit, please book via the link in the chat panel. And once more, thank you for attending today. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.